The unexpected connection, the steady beep of heart monitors and hushed conversations filled the pediatric wing of Memorial Hospital as Olivia Barnes completed her 12th hour of what should have been an 8-hour shift. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her green scrubs bearing the evidence of a particularly challenging day, tiny handprints, formula stains, and the badge of honor that came with caring for the hospital's smallest patients. Just one more round, she promised herself, checking on the sleeping infants in the nursery before her replacement arrived. The distinctive sound of a wailing baby drew her attention toward the waiting area cry, different from the others. One filled with a particular desperation that came from exhaustion rather than pain or hunger. Following the sound, Olivia found a man in his mid-30s pacing the small waiting room, bouncing a red-faced infant against his shoulder. His expensive suit looked slept in. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his hair stood in all directions, as though he'd been running his hands through it for hours. The baby, no more than 3 months old, was working herself into the kind of frenzy that Olivia knew could last for hours. "Sir?" Olivia approached cautiously. "Is everything all right?" The man turned, revealing startlingly blue eyes clouded with desperation. "The doctor is running late. She's been crying for so long, and nothing I do helps." His voice cracked slightly. "I'm Thomas. This is Lily. I'm Olivia, one of the pediatric nurses." She glanced at the clock, technically off duty now, but she couldn't walk away from this scene. "May I?" Thomas hesitated only briefly before carefully transferring the screaming infant. Olivia cradled Lily against her chest, one hand supporting her head while the other patted a gentle rhythm against her back. She began humming softly, a lullaby her grandmother had taught her. "There now, little one," she whispered, swaying gently from side to side. "You're just overwhelmed, aren't you? Too much happening, too many strange people." Within minutes, Lily's desperate cries began to subside into hiccuping sobs, her tiny fists unclenching as she nestled against Olivia's neck. Thomas watched in astonishment. "How did you do that? She hasn't stopped crying for more than 5 minutes in 3 days." Olivia smiled, continuing her gentle swaying motion. "Babies can sense tension. The more anxious you become about their crying, the more they tend to cry." She gestured to a nearby chair. "Sit down before you fall down. When was the last time you slept properly?" "Not since Rebecca died 6 weeks ago," Thomas admitted, sinking into the chair and running his hands over his face. "A nanny quit yesterday," sighed. "Lily was too colicky, too difficult." The raw grief in his voice made Olivia's heart ache. "I'm so sorry about your wife." "Thank you," he replied automatically, the words worn smooth with repetition. "The pediatrician suggested it might be colic, but wanted to check for an ear infection. We've been waiting for 2 hours." Lily had settled completely now, her breathing evening out as she dozed against Olivia's shoulder. Carefully, Olivia sat in the chair beside Thomas, adjusting the baby without disturbing her newfound peace. "She needs a diaper change," Olivia observed, noting the slight bulge. "And possibly a formula change. Sometimes colic is related to milk protein sensitivity." Thomas blinked, absorbing this information like a man drowning in a sea of uncertainty who'd just been thrown a lifeline. "The formula? I didn't even think about that. Do you have her diaper bag? I can help you change her before the doctor arrives." He nodded, retrieving a designer bag that looked barely used. Together, they moved to a small family room where Olivia showed him how to check if a diaper was too tight, how to properly support Lily's head during changes, and the soothing effect of a gentle stomach massage for colicky babies. "You're incredible with her," Thomas said softly, watching Olivia's confident movements. "How long have you been a pediatric nurse?" 8 years, Olivia replied, securing the fresh diaper. "But I practically raised my younger siblings after. My mom got sick, so I've had plenty of practice." When the doctor finally arrived, Lily remained calm in Olivia's arms, allowing for a proper examination that confirmed there was no infection, just classic colic and possibly a formula intolerance. "I should let you get home," Thomas said afterward, noting Olivia's tired eyes. "You've already stayed well past your shift." "It's no trouble," she assured him, transferring Lily back to her father's arms and showing him how to hold her against his heartbeat. "Keep her close like this. The rhythm is soothing to her." To Thomas's amazement, Lily remained peaceful, her eyelids drooping with exhaustion. "You're a miracle worker." Olivia smiled, gathering her things. "Just experience. You'll get there." "Wait," Thomas called as she turned to leave. "This is completely unorthodox, but would you—" He hesitated, then continued more firmly. "Would you consider a childcare position? I'm desperate, as you can probably tell." Olivia blinked in surprise. "I'm flattered, but I have a career here." "Whatever." "They're paying you. I'll double it," Thomas said without hesitation. "Triple it, even, plus benefits. I need someone who understands Lily." The offer hung in the air between them. Olivia thought of her tiny apartment, the student loans that seemed to barely decrease despite years of payments, her aging grandmother's medical bills. "I can't make a decision like this on the spot," she said carefully. Thomas nodded, shifting Lily to reach into his jacket pocket with his free hand. "Here's my card. Call me tomorrow if you're interested." He paused, vulnerability flashing across his face. "Please consider it. For her Saki." As Olivia took the card, Lily's tiny hand reached out and grabbed her finger, holding on with surprising strength. In that moment, it felt strangely like a sign of things to come, a connection formed in the most unexpected circumstances that would change all their lives forever. Worlds colliding, Olivia stood at the ornate iron gates of Wellington Estate, clutching her worn leather handbag as the security guard verified her identity. The sprawling mansion beyond the manicured gardens looked like something from a glossy magazine worlds away from her modest upbringing in a small townhouse, shared with 4 siblings and her grandmother. "Mr. Wellington is expecting you, miss." "Barnes," the guard said, opening the gate with a respectful nod. 3 days had passed since the hospital encounter. After lengthy discussions with her grandmother Eleonora, who urged her to recognize a blessing when it appears, and her supervisor Jasmine, who promised her position would remain open if she wanted to return, Olivia had called Thomas Wellington. Only after accepting his offer did she do a simple internet search and discover exactly who he was. Not just a grieving father, but the founder and CEO of Wellington Technologies, one of the fastest-growing software companies in the country. The man who had looked so disheveled and vulnerable in the hospital waiting room was featured in business magazines as a visionary, entrepreneur worth billions. The front door opened before she could knock, revealing Thomas with Lily fussing in. His arms. Unlike their first meeting, he was immaculately dressed in a tailored suit, though the dark circles remained under his eyes. "Thank goodness you're here," he said, relief evident in his voice. "She's been inconsolable all morning." Without hesitation, Olivia set down her bag and reached for the baby. Lily's cries softened immediately at her familiar touch, her tiny body relaxing against Olivia's shoulder. "Hello again, sweet girl," Olivia murmured, patting the gentle rhythm that had soothed her before. "Remember me?" Thomas watched in amazement as his daughter settled. "I was beginning to think I imagined how good you were with her." "I have a few questions before we formalize anything," Olivia said, gently swaying. "With Lily, I'd need clearly defined hours, responsibilities, and personal time. I'm not abandoning my nursing career entirely, just taking a sabbatical." Thomas nodded. "Of course. We can discuss everything in my study once Lily settled." He led her through the mansion, past rooms filled with museum-quality art and furnishings that likely cost more than Olivia's annual salary. Despite the obvious luxury, the house felt sterile, lacking the warmth of a family home. "Have you been managing alone?" Olivia asked, noting the empty coffee cups and scattered baby items that contrasted with the otherwise perfect interior. "My assistant Vanessa helps with scheduling, and I've had a rotating cast of temporary nannies, none lasting more than a few days." Thomas sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture Olivia was beginning to recognize as his response to stress. The household staff comes 3 times weekly, but they're not childcare providers. In the nursery, a beautifully appointed room with hand-painted murals and a custom crib, Olivia gently laid the now sleeping Lily down. The contrast between the perfect nursery and the disheveled state of its occupant spoke volumes about Thomas's struggle. "You mentioned formula sensitivity," Thomas said quietly as they stepped out. "I switched brands like you suggested. It seems to be helping." Olivia smiled, pleased he'd taken her advice. "That's excellent. I've brought some additional suggestions for colic management." In his study, Thomas outlined the position. A salary that made Olivia's eyes widen. A private suite in the East Wing, health insurance that would cover her grandmother, and flexible hours to accommodate her continued education. "This seems too good to be true," Olivia admitted, reviewing the contract. "You're providing something." "Priceless," Thomas replied, his gaze drifting toward the baby monitor, where Lily slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. "My daughter's well-being." Over the following weeks, Olivia transformed the Wellington household. She established routines for Lily, organized the chaotic nursery, and introduced Thomas to the basics of infant care. The baby thrived under her attention, the colicky episodes decreasing as Olivia implemented gentle remedies and consistent schedules. One evening, after Lily was asleep, Olivia found Thomas in the kitchen attempting to make dinner, a surprising sight given the fully staffed household. "You cook?" she asked, leaning against the door frame. Thomas looked up from his somewhat disastrous attempt at pasta sauce. "Rebecca and I used to cook together every Sunday. I'm trying to maintain some normal habits." A shadow crossed his face. "Not very successfully, as you can see." Without comment, Olivia washed her hands and began salvaging the sauce, adding herbs and adjusting seasonings. They worked side by side, the silence comfortable between them. "Tell me about her," Olivia said gently as they sat down to eat. Thomas hesitated, then began sharing stories of Rebecca, her passion for marine biology, her laugh that could fill a room, how they'd met during a charity scuba expedition. For the first time since Olivia had known him, he spoke without the weight of grief crushing every word. "She would have loved you," he said finally, meeting Olivia's eyes. "Your way with Lily, your practical approach to everything." Olivia felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest at his words. "She sounds like an amazing woman." She was. Thomas cleared his throat. "What about you? Any family besides your grandmother?" Olivia told him about growing up as the oldest of 5, about her mother's early onset dementia that had thrust Olivia into a caretaker role at 16, about working night shifts to put herself through nursing school. "That explains a lot," Thomas said softly. "Why you're so capable, so unfazed by chaos." "Necessity is quite the teacher," Olivia replied with a slight smile. As weeks turned into months, the boundaries between employer and employee blurred. Thomas began arriving home earlier, eager to spend the evening routine with Lily and, though neither acknowledged it, with Olivia. Their conversations extended beyond childcare into shared interests, dreams, and philosophies. On a rainy Saturday, Thomas found Olivia in the library, Lily asleep in a portable crib nearby. Olivia was curled in a window seat, completely absorbed in a medical journal. "Still pursuing your nursing studies?" he asked, settling in an armchair opposite her. Olivia nodded. I was considering pediatric nurse practitioner programs before. She gestured around them. All this happened. You should apply, Thomas said immediately. I could arrange your schedule around classes, provide tuition assistance as part of your compensation. Why would you do that? Olivia asked, genuinely puzzled by his generosity. Thomas was quiet for a moment, his expression unreadable. Because you gave me back my daughter, and in many ways, my life. He met her gaze directly. And because I've come to care about your dreams, Olivia. The air between them changed, charged with an awareness neither was prepared to acknowledge. Olivia looked away first, her heart racing inexplicably. I should check on Lily, she said, though the baby was sleeping peacefully. As she moved to stand, Thomas reached for her hand, stopping her. Olivia. The moment hung suspended between them, full of possibility and complication. Then Lily stirred, breaking the spell with perfect timing. That night, alone in her suite, Olivia faced an uncomfortable truth. She was falling for Thomas. Wellington, her employer, a billionaire, a grieving widower, and a man so far removed from her world that any connection between them seemed impossible. Professional boundaries existed for a reason, and crossing them could jeopardize everything: Lily's stability, her financial security, and her heart. Yet when she closed her eyes, all she could see was the vulnerability in Thomas's gaze, so at odds with the powerful businessman the world knew, and so achingly familiar to the nurse who had first encountered him on the worst day of his life. Healing hearts, the autumn leaves drifted across the Wellington estate grounds, creating a tapestry of gold and crimson against the emerald lawn. 6 months had passed since Olivia first stepped through those imposing gates, transforming not only Lily's life, but the entire household atmosphere. Lily, now 9 months old, was thriving, crawling energetically, babbling with increasing complexity, and developing the sunny personality that had been hidden beneath her earlier distress. The bond between father and daughter had strengthened immeasurably, with Thomas now confidently handling bedtime routines and Sunday morning daddy time that gave Olivia precious hours to pursue her online nurse practitioner courses. What none of them had anticipated was the certified letter that arrived on a crisp October morning. They want custody, Thomas said, his voice hollow as he sat in his study, the legal document spread before him. Rebecca's parents are claiming I'm an unfit father due to my work schedule and that Lily should be with blood relatives who can provide full-time care. Olivia, who had been summoned from the nursery, felt her stomach drop. In 6 months, the Harrington grandparents had visited exactly twice, both times spending more time critiquing Thomas's parenting than connecting with their granddaughter. That's absurd, she said, scanning the document. You've completely rearranged your life for Lily. You're an excellent father. Thomas ran his hands through his hair, the familiar stress gesture that now made Olivia want to reach across the desk and take his hand. They never approved of me. Thought I was too focused on building the company, that Rebecca deserved someone who would prioritize family. His voice broke slightly. Maybe they were right. No, Olivia said firmly, surprising herself with her vehemence. Look at how Lily lights up when you enter a room. That's not the reaction of a child with an absent father. Their eyes met across the desk, holding a moment longer than necessary. These moments had been occurring with increasing frequency, lingering glances, conversations that stretched late into the evening, the electricity when their hands accidentally touched. Both carefully ignored the growing tension, too aware of the complications it would bring. Asterisk, the hearing is in 3 weeks, Thomas said, breaking the silence. My lawyer suggests we demonstrate household stability. She wants to interview you about Lily's care and routine. Olivia nodded. Of course. Anything that helps. The following days brought a flurry of legal preparations. Between meetings with attorneys and compiling documentation of Lily's development, Thomas grew increasingly withdrawn, the specter of losing his daughter hanging over every interaction. One evening, Olivia found him in the nursery, long after Lily had fallen asleep, simply watching his daughter breathe. "You should rest," she said softly from the doorway. "Tomorrow's lawyer meeting is early." "I keep thinking about what I'll do if they win," Thomas replied without turning, his voice barely audible. "She's all I have left of Rebecca. All I have left, period." The raw pain in his words pulled Olivia forward until she stood beside him at the crib. Without thinking, she slipped her hand into his, offering silent comfort. "You have more than you realize," she said quietly, "and you're not going to lose her." Thomas's fingers tightened around hers. "How can you be so certain?" "Because I've seen what a good father you are. Because any judge with eyes will see it too." Olivia turned to face him fully. "And because I won't let it happen." Asterisk in the dim nursery light, with Lily sleeping peacefully between them, something shifted. Thomas reached up, gently tucking a strand of hair behind Olivia's ear, his hand lingering against her cheek. "Olivia," he whispered, her name sounding like a question and an answer simultaneously. The professional barriers they'd maintained for months dissolved as he leaned forward, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that felt both surprising and inevitable. Olivia's heart raced as she responded, her free hand coming to rest against his chest where she could feel his heartbeat matching her own frantic rhythm. When they finally parted, reality crashed back. "I shouldn't have done that," Thomas said, though he made no move to increase the distance between them. "You work for me. It's inappropriate." "Is that all I am to you? An employee?" Olivia asked, finding courage she didn't know she possessed. "You know it's not," Thomas admitted. "You've become essential to Lily, to this household, to me. But I don't want you to feel obligated or pressured." "Thomas," Olivia said gently, "I'm a nurse who grew up raising 4 siblings. Do I strike you as someone easily pressured into anything?" A smile, the first genuine one in days, broke across his face. "Fair point. We should talk about this," she continued, "but not here, not now. Lily and the custody case have to be our priority." Thomas nodded, pressing a final kiss to her forehead before reluctantly releasing her hand. "Tomorrow, then." Tomorrow stretched into days as legal preparations consumed their attention. The night before the hearing, Olivia found Thomas in his study, surrounded by photographs of Lily's monthly milestone pictures, candid moments of father and daughter, and several that included Olivia herself, captured unaware as she read to Lily, or laughed during their garden playtime. "Evidence of a happy, stable home," Thomas explained, looking up as she entered with 2 mugs of tea. "May I?" she asked, sitting beside him and picking up a photo of all 3 of them taken during a weekend picnic. Thomas had his arm around Olivia while she held Lily, all 3 smiling at the camera held by the housekeeper. They looked, undeniably, like a family. "The lawyers said I should be prepared for the Harringtons to question your role," Thomas said, accepting the tea. "They'll likely suggest that relying on hired help indicates my inability to parent directly." "I'm hardly hired help at this point," Olivia replied, her tone lighter than she felt. Thomas set down his mug, turning to face her fully. "No, you're not. You're far more than that, which brings me to something I've been wanting to discuss." Olivia's breath caught at the intensity in his gaze. "These past months, watching you with Lily, seeing how you've brought warmth and stability into our lives, it's made me realize what truly matters." He took her hands in his. "I know the timing is complicated with the hearing tomorrow, but I need you to know that what I feel for you goes beyond gratitude or convenience." "Thomas," Olivia began, but he continued, "I'm falling in love with you, Olivia Barnes. Not because you're wonderful with my daughter, though you are, but because of your compassion, your strength, your practical wisdom, because conversations with you are the brightest part of my days. Tears pricked Olivia's eyes as months of carefully contained emotions surfaced. What about professional boundaries? The complications? The fact that we come from completely different worlds? All valid concerns, Thomas acknowledged. But none of them change how I feel, or the fact that we've already created something precious here. A family, unconventional as it may be. The custody hearing lasted 4 grueling hours. The Harrington's attorney painted Thomas as a workaholic who delegated parenting to paid staff, while portraying the grandparents as devoted family members who could provide the maternal influence Lily desperately needed. When Olivia took the stand as a witness, she spoke not as an employee, but as someone who had observed firsthand the profound bond between father and daughter. Mr. Wellington rearranged his entire company structure to be home for Lily's bedtime routine every night. She testified. He learns every detail of her development, celebrates every milestone, and knows exactly how she likes to be comforted. When she's upset, that doesn't happen with an uninvolved parent. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, listened carefully to all testimony. When she finally spoke, her ruling was clear. Custody would remain with Thomas, with generous visitation rights for the grandparents. The court finds that Mr. Wellington has provided a stable, loving environment for his daughter during extraordinarily difficult circumstances, she stated. The presence of qualified childcare support demonstrates resourcefulness, not neglect. Outside the courthouse, Thomas pulled Olivia into an embrace, Lily secured between them. "We did it," he whispered against her hair. "Thank you." "It was the right outcome," Olivia replied, smiling as Lily patted her cheeks with tiny hands. "She belongs with you." "With us," Thomas corrected softly, "if you'll stay. Not as Lily's nurse or nanny, but as part of our family, however that might evolve." Olivia looked up at him, at the man she'd first met in his darkest moment, who had since shown her depths of strength, vulnerability, and love she hadn't known existed. At Lily, who had captured her heart from those first moments in the hospital waiting room. "I once told a desperate father that I couldn't make life-changing decisions on the spot," she said with a small smile. "But I think this time I already know my answer." As Thomas leaned down to kiss her, right there on the courthouse steps with autumn leaves swirling around them and Lily giggling between them, Olivia marveled at how a simple act of compassion calming a stranger's crying baby had led to this moment of perfect clarity. Some connections, once formed, were simply meant to be, transcending circumstance, background, and all the practical reasons saying they shouldn't work. Sometimes, the most unexpected beginnings led to the most beautiful outcomes, something Olivia, Thomas, and little Lily were just starting to discover together.